Welcome to a dialogue on accountability in the digital age. A dialogue with representatives of a global, multi-stakeholder community.
And I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm delighted to have a dialogue with Mieke de Ketelaere. Mieke, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Mieke, I'm going to introduce you to our audience. You are a professor in sustainable, ethical, and trustworthy AI at I4ADA, which is the #1 business school in Belgium. You have a background on data with IBM and Microsoft. You've been nominated to be nominated as the ICT Women of the Year. Probably related to the fact that you're author of a number of books, including Wanted Human AI Translators. And you've been passionate about AI since '92, so quite a long background. And you present a lot of keynotes on this topic, and the latest two are on generative AI, which we're definitely going to cover, and AI, the banality of evil. So again, welcome to the program. Welcome to our dialogue. First question I'd like to ask you is, I4ADA is a business school. Why would a business school have a professor on sustainable, ethical, and trustworthy AI?
Well, I think that's a very, very good question to start with. And it actually also links to the origin for why I'm focusing on. And the fact is that AI by default is, of course, technology. It's in engineering, it's mathematics. So you wouldn't directly link it to management school. But if you now look after, 30 years where AI has landed, and especially where AI has gone wrong, it is at the side of responsibility and accountability. And that's from the side of business owners who have seen the big AI elite making money from it, and who wanted to jump on the train as well. And let's do AI. We have to do something with it, but who didn't take time to really understand what it is and what it isn't, and what it means to their business and where it brings value. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I4ADA said, well, we want to be that AI translator between technology and business leaders.
Okay. So for me, that means you're taking AI to mainstream, to outside the traditional IT world, and get them to understand how they can apply that. And the fact that you are a professor in sustainable, ethical, and trustworthy AI, that also applies that we need to pay attention so if a stable system would maybe end up always ethical and trustworthy, should I then assume that an AI system by default is not ethical, not trustworthy, not sustainable?
Well, that would be, that would be a bit too short. But the fact is that business have been focusing it because of the profit. What does a business need to do? Business need to increase revenue, decrease cost, and decrease risk. And for this, they have been starting to use AI to do these type of KPIs. But that's where things have gone wrong, because if you just look at the profit, we know, and that's also been proven in the past with other technologies like the car, if you only look at profit, things go wrong, because you can have a negative impact on people side, and you can have a bit of a wrong impact on the planet. And that's what happened with AI. So are all AI systems evil and dangerous? No, but those systems that have an impact on people, that have an impact on a decision that can, for example, impact your job, your studies, also in a courtroom. So there is a situation where AI can go wrong, and it's a lot of things have been said already about bias, but that's one of the main reasons. On the planet side, it's not that AI. There's a lot of things AI for good for that have a positive impact on planet, but the planet part is mainly the fact that all these systems consume an enormous amount of energy. And nobody ever in the last 70 years was challenged on it. Even today, nobody is challenged as developer, how much energy did you consume? It's all on accuracy. And so with the sustainability focus, we want to balance out, because the solutions are there, keep the focus on sustainability, but with accuracy high up.
Okay, you're talking about putting in safeguards. Now, because this immediately reminds me to on a quote you put in why you wrote a book to demystify AI. And let me read this to you. I haven't been focusing too much on the profit. Haven't I been focused too much on the profit of AI systems generate? Did I think enough about the impact on people and planet? Did we engineers make enough effort to translate AI in a transparent way? Now, the fact that you said we engineers, that automatically made me think of the film Oppenheimer. And the very brief discussion Oppenheimer had with Truman said, look, hey, you just build a thing. I'm going to decide if I'm going to drop the bomb or not. To some extent, I would say this applies, it's the same thing. So the question is, who else outside the engineer should be at the table to make certain that we come up with an accountable system?
I think all of us. Yeah, it is really a multidisciplinary debate that has to happen by design. That means before you even start creating the system. And who is this? That's surely business. That's also legal. It's also government, but it's also the society. Citizens have to be around the table if it's going to be an impact on them, on their lives. So it really depends on, of course, because AI, there's many types of AI systems in many sectors, but all of us implicated, the end consumer of the decision, plus the person who's developing it and everything in between have to be around the table. The only problem is they speak a different language. I speak alphas, betas, Hamas. Business speak KPIs, citizens speak, trust and the human rights. So, and that's where things have gone wrong in the past. We don't understand each other.
Okay. Understanding each other also is not only language, it's also of having enough understanding. And the way AI is developing at the moment in your assessment, is there anybody out there who still is able to have the complete picture? And if not, then what's the consequence of that?
Yeah, no, it's no longer possible. And everybody who claims it, I can challenge them. It is impossible.
No.
You could compare it to the world of medicine, where you have the generalist who knows a little bit of everything. I call myself the generalist in AI. And I know where to find the experts on either text analytics, on the legal part, on the integration with smart sensors. There's so many technologies linked to this AI that's impossible to call yourself an AI expert. The only thing is, as we bundled it all under the name AI, for the outside world, they don't see this. So, and it happens quite a lot that a company says, oh, we would like to have an AI system, and they call whatever startup an AI, and they'll say, oh, we haven't done that, let's do that. I'll just translate this into the medical world. Let's say you go to the doctor or to the hospital, and you say, well, I have something on my heart. And then the reception says, well, the cardiologist is not there, but the dermatologist is there. Let's go to dermatologist. You wouldn't do this in the medical world. Well, in the AI world, this is what happens. Because there's so many different potential sub disciplines. For the outside world, it seems as one big ball, one AI, and that's not the case. There's so many disciplines like in medicine.
But wouldn't you then also assume that the AI expert who does get that question would then refer to, look, you should be calling up on somebody else?
Yeah, but that doesn't happen. I tell you, this doesn't happen. We've seen that very strongly with generative AI. Suddenly, all startups that have been doing imaging suddenly became text experts, and I'm like, well, no, just stick to what your specialty is. And and this is not happening. So the critical mindset of the engineer or the developer, and to say, well, this is not us, you have to go there, like it happens in the medical world, it doesn't happen in the AI world today.
Okay, bold statements, but I think I recognize where you're coming from. So in that respect, what for you is the biggest threat for accountability today? Any thoughts and ideas on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been indeed giving bold statements on the engineers, but I'm an engineer myself, so I look myself in the mirror. And I have to say that we engineers, we don't always have an evil mindset. But however, what we don't always have is the idea of when we create something here, we put it open source or we put it on Hugging Face. What and how is our piece of software or AI going to be used on the other side of the world? I give you one example. There's this very smart student who creates a software which allows on video, when you don't have the sound, to analyze based on the lips what is being said. So it sounds very, very normal, very sweet for, you know, somebody who is deaf. However, he puts his algorithm online. So on the other side of the world, they've taken this algorithm and now they're able, whatever video camera, you know, videos that they are getting in, even if they don't have the sound, they can perfectly say what's been said in this meeting, what's been said in this room, etc. So again, here, one student, very cocoon, very niche application for his grandmother. The other side of the world, exactly same application is misused to analyze and understand what the highest discussions are in certain boardrooms. This is penalty of evil.
And that's very difficult to predict when you do invent something, because I want to come back to something we discussed earlier before we started the recording, when you talked about the difficulty in what you called, I like that analogy, the Mentos Coca-Cola effect of technology. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So if you make an, you know, the Mentos Coca-Cola effect, I think we all know is Mentos by itself is good, nothing bad about it. Coca-Cola is good, but combine both and you give you have an explosion. Well, exactly the same is happening now in our AI world, where, like I said, the non-evil engineers are putting out their data sets they create, models they create, etc. And every bit by itself might be just perfect and nice and sweet, and with a little description of how to use it. However, if you combine these parts, the combination of it becomes very, you know, evil. I'll give you an example. If you create a data set with all open source data that you then will use to train a large language model, and then you take another model which you then enrich with another data set, by combining these, we've seen in the chatbots that this is one of the reasons why these chatbots start to derive and become very sexual and very evil, etc. So again, here the bits by themselves perfectly fine. Combine them, and it becomes ugly.
Okay, and I believe also Belgium had in a recent very traumatic example of where it went wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So there was an announcement of a person, an adult man, who, after being in touch with the chatbots, indeed committed suicide. We've taken this case very seriously and understood indeed that in all this mingle of companion chatbots, because that's the type of chatbots we are talking, were presenting themselves mainly to younger people, teenagers, and vulnerable people, is that the citizens who are not typically engineers, they actually don't see this technology as a technology anymore. They start to see this really as a friend after a couple of weeks. And this is what happened. People make relationships with technology. We have to accept it. And so what happened indeed, that the chatbot started to derive and start to push the men, and it also happened to a girl in Italy, started to push it in a certain direction. People don't realize it is technology because they get a picture, it's a fake picture, they get a dialogue, it's very human dialogue. That was also the purpose of generative AI, and that's where things are going wrong today.
Okay, so, and that resulted in a suicide, I understand.
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay, so who is then accountable in this particular scenario?
It's a very difficult question because, of course, you can. I mean, there's different ways to look into it, and we looked into this with legal as well. Today, there's no regulation for it. So there's still doubts. Is this AI? I'm going to make it more generic because it is not just one suicide. It's a lot of manipulation that we see happening, etc. Who's accountable? Well, developers themselves, strangely enough, say, well, it's a human who is asking wrong prompts. It's like we know the prompts from ChatGPT. And so they claim it's not us. You know, it's the humans who are, well, we weren't trained on this. This was dumped on us without any type of context, etc. So I don't agree with this statement. But the point is that where has it gone wrong and who is accountable? It is actually the fact that technology and AI today is the only sector where you can dump something on society without having any tests before. I'll give you a different, a different sector, medical world. Medical tests are happening far before. The car industry, initially there was no regulation around the car industry. cars were put out, there were a lot of accidents, and people started to say, well, we need driver's license, we need road signs, we need checkups on the cars, etc. So this whole framework isn't there yet. So it's not one person, it's not just a legal act that you're going to regulate this. It's by training people, it's by training developers, it's by training end users of this, it's by putting a notice on it of the dangers with the systems, etc. So, but all this isn't existing. So you could compare it to the car industry in the 1950s. A lot of work to do.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting comparison, because I previously had a conversation. It was actually with Newt Gittrinch, which I had a very brief opportunity to ask him what his opinion was on accountability, and he actually also referred to the car industry. And I'm going to ask you the same thing question, because his reply was, well, it's just like the car industry, it's just another innovation. And well, it's going to take us like 10, 20 years, and then we have a set of rules and regulations, and the safeguards are in place. But
I think it's going to be more difficult, and I'll explain you why. First of all, in
well,
car.
okay. Yeah, because my follow-up question, that was, I think you're missing out on the element of time. We don't have those 10, 20 years.
Not only the time, and I agree on the time point, but also on the fact that if you see a car accident, you drive on the roadway and you see a car accident the other side, you almost feel the pain of people who were in that car. It's a very visible accident. AI is a hidden technology. It's sitting in our smartphones, it's sitting in our smartwatches, etc. So that's one point. You don't feel and don't see the evil of what's happening to another person. You almost have to have an expert that can point out, look, that's what's in there. It's like an onion with many layers around it. So that's the first point. The second point is a car is one type of technology. With AI, you have text, you have image, you have sound, we will have smell, we have so many flavors of it. And the point is that in many, for example, image in medical world is doing very good things, fantastic good things. But then that same image recognition software to create fake images, that's going wrong. So you can't just put it on one pile because of the different flavors, and also because of the fact that some use cases are very good and others aren't. With the car industry, there's an accident, and an accident is always bad. I don't know any good accident. So that's the complexity that's behind it. Time plus a hidden perspective plus the flavors that we have in this technology.
Okay. Any idea of a solution, how we're going to mitigate that, the risk associated?
Well, it's a common fact, and it's also written in my book as the red-green hypothesis. That means that people understanding the technology already know how to go around it. So even if we put a legal act, people already know how to go around it, or how to to find loopholes in the act, and that's already available right now. So what you need to do is we need to go straight to the start. It's like regenerative leadership is at the level of young people, younger generations, make them aware of the impact of it. Also to developers having sort of an oath that they have to subscribe, that whatever they're going to do everything they can, not to play the race of the AI lead, but to take ownership of what they're creating. And I know it's a difficulty to understand what our launch here is going to be misused the other side of the world, but you have to make that effort. We have to have by design ethics, but also user experience. For example, with ChatGPT, there wasn't a user experience analysis done. So we have to put all these things forward before even starting the project. And then it's about making sure that the awareness is there with the citizens, because today it's not there. So there's a lot of work. So it's not one little button that you have to switch on or off, or it's not just a legal act. We are gonna. That's not going to be it. It's going to implicate everybody. So because it's a fantastic technology, and that's a strange part. It's fantastic, but we have to put it between the boundaries where it needs to fit.
So, okay. First, a question you already mentioned, if you create something on one side of the planet, it can be abused on the other side of the planet. That also implies we need to have an international discussion.
Yeah,
but in our experience as an institute, the same situation, the same question will get different replies from one side of the planet to the other side of the planet.
And that's right. That's one of these complexity. There's AI in comparison to the car industry. A car accident in India is the same as a car accident here. I mean, the human body will be. AI is context. Is linked to context. So if you then think about the decisions that AI can be automating, that's linked to the fairness. Something that's fair here in Europe, that's very normal, isn't fair anymore in India or in Australia. So that's where the things are happening. But so which means that you actually have to know where a system was trained and in which context it would fit. But all these explanations we don't get. We don't know which data was used for ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, if you ask it questions, how to bomb Ukraine, it will tell you you shouldn't be bombing Ukraine. If you ask ChatGPT, I don't know if it's still the case, but initially, if you asked them the same question, how to bomb Iraq, ChatGPT was giving you a list of actions to take to bomb Iraq. You go like, whoa, where is this influence? I mean, of course, we know where this influence is, very American influence, but this is not okay. This is not okay, this judgment that's getting in there. I tested ChatGPT right from the first day and I asked ChatGPT the same question. On an animal, just because I didn't want to give too much of my data away. So I asked it questions about an animal talking to another animal. And after a while, ChatGPT started to tell me that I was the difficult one. I should be starting to work with everybody in this world, and I should look into myself and work on myself, on my. And I'm like, whoa, where is this? This look at us, and we are going to tell you how to behave. This is not okay. This shouldn't be the task of AI or generative AI system to tell us something to do based on a context which is not ours.
So to what extent this triggers me to think about the film, the Walt Disney film Fantasia. Could this also be a situation that these systems, the creators of these systems, were not aware when they provided the technology that it was capable of taking that position?
Absolutely, and that's the case. If you look at Sam Altman on video, and people asked him about the impact of generative text on the attitude of people, he said, well, people should look at it as a technology. Of course, he's not a sociologist, he's not a psychologist, he's just an engineer. He's an engineer, very good engineer, but that means that he can't put himself in the state of mind of these other type of roles, and that's where this multidisciplinary debate is so needed. I can't put myself in the shoes of a legal person because I don't have this competence, but accepting that as an engineer that you're not God and that you're just a human, just like everybody else with a sociology background, a psychology background, and a legal background, that's what's needed. I mean, there's a very good joke, what's the difference between God and an engineer?
No, tell me.
At least God knew he wasn't an engineer.
Yeah, I get your point, yes.
Yeah, but that's what's happening.
So what I'm hearing is also that one of the low-hanging fruit is ethical by design, accountability by design, making certain that engineers at least have an understanding that it could have real-life consequences. Is there any other low-hanging fruit in your mind we could focus on?
I re-question the open source model for AI. The urge from young developers to really create something and put it open source. Because that's where a lot of evil has started. A recent case here in Belgium is as well, I think it's happening worldwide, is if you have a car accident, normally there's an expert that has to come along and to look at your car and see how much you have to get paid back. Now you can take a picture, you upload a picture in the system of the car insurance. Well, there are already companies out there that will take your picture, they use a deep fake, and for a little tiny scratch, they use deep fake, so you get like a total loss back on your car. You upload that picture into the system of your car insurer. And so instead of having 1,000 euros for your little scratch to be repaired, you get the next day 35,000 euros in your account. So that means that here as well, the model that was used was an open source model, but some people said, well, we can make a profit out of this little tiny startup. They'll take these pictures, do the deep fake, and you get your big money back. So
wow, you have to be very devious and creative to come up with this as a business model.
that's what evil people do, that's where I mean, if there's money involved in it, that's what I mean. That's a red queen hypothesis. In the nature is this as well. Animals that adapt smarter and faster are able to survive much better in a changing context. We're in a fast changing context, and what you see is that the gap between those understanding AI and those who don't understand, instead of getting it smaller, which I think should happen, it's actually getting bigger, because those front runners are running very, very hard. They don't care about us.
Okay.
If you think about Snapchat, who opened up a chatbot, a companion chatbot, it is by default installed on the mobile phones from our children. You cannot uninstall it until you take a paying account with Snapchat. And this AI bot is following the locations of our children, as it's following the storyboard of our children, etc. This is not okay. This is not even legal. But it's there. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I want to come back to you said, okay, you question the open source approach, because one of the main arguments for open source is it allows for transparency.
Mhm.
And proprietary actually creates a hurdle for being transparent. So what's your take on that as an argument?
It indeed. I mean, there's many good things about open source, and it comes, for example, with the companion chatbot I was talking about before. It comes with documentation normally from the person who created, but people don't read the documentation. New developers go like, oh, we can go faster by taking this data set and this model. Although the model and the data sets were very clearly indicating, look, never ever use this in a commercial product. It was used in a commercial product. So it's just due to the fact that there's so much big money to be won, and so much investors are also playing that game with the startups. Time is money, so people don't take time to relax, to look into that, to take time for the multidisciplinary debate, etc., and to read the documentation that comes with open source models. And so this altogether is a toxic mix.
I think, yeah, well, you've very much educated me today with your insights in where it can go wrong and possible solutions. So good insight. In your view, in your opinion, what's the low-hanging fruit? Where can we start today?
Well, we need to find a way, in this dislocated responsibilities from an AI solution. Like, if you think back in my time in 92, I was sitting in a lab, I was typing the data in, I created a model, and I translated the outcome of the model 0.75 to the business to say what they have to do. You have to buy so much energy or you don't. Very centralized, setup. Today, we're in a very decentralized setup with a decentralized responsibilities. What you see right now is that all engineers point to another. And some Altman will say, well, users shouldn't be doing this. Users say, well, we shouldn't be giving this data, etc. So we have to find ways that before a solution can be put outside into the world, that it's, thoroughly tested by a multidisciplinary debate, and that we have non-engineers looking at the potential impacts that they can have. There will always still be, things that we haven't thought about, but at least, have this process by design beforehand. This is what should have happen, and not afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. So that reminds me of the recent call or announcement from Antonio Guterres of the UN to set up a global UN agency. Would that help in your view?
Absolutely. Even if it's to create awareness, that would absolutely help. I mean, if I look at the European AI Act, a fantastic document, great work has gone into this. However, this fact that there's dislocated responsibilities is not picked up. And that's where one of the problems is. So that's a loophole.
Okay. Hey, given what you've just shared with us on where it can go wrong, last question. Are you still optimistic about the future of AI and its ability to be accountable?
Absolutely, absolutely, and like I said, the reason why I'm doing this work is to make sure we can embrace this technology, because it does help lives of people. It can help really with major takes on, for example, global warming. It can help us in defining in patient trajectories potential illnesses that might appear. But I would love to have back the focus on these positive parts. But for this, the negative parts have to be tackled,
Okay.
and or have to be addressed.
Okay, maybe a last final question. So to what extent, we now talked about rules, regulations, safeguards. Now I'm also hearing people talk about we're using 18th, 19th century solutions, rules and regulations to govern 21st century technology. And because of the speed one is developing and the other can be developed, it creates an accountability gap. So to what extent can we also use 21st century solutions maybe to bridge that gap? So can we use AI to govern AI? Is that a solution?
That's a very good question. I haven't thought about that. Today, because of the fact that AI is not transparent, I'm scared that if we would do this, that it's again the AI elite, those that understanding it, who will govern it towards their own advantages. I'm explaining myself. In all the acts that are being created and regulations around AI, all the governments ask for advice from the big players, the Microsofts, the Googles, and the OpenAIs, etc. And what you see is the input they're giving is all in their own advantage. And of course, because governments don't understand the full picture, they will take this for granted that this information is good, but it's unbalanced. And so if you would then have, your proposal to have AI governing AI, I don't think it's a good idea. Because of the fact that it's, again, those that don't understand it, that will put it in their own advantage. It's a hidden technology. So no, that wouldn't be it. Maybe a combination with blockchain, so that things can be traced and tracked. That's a smarter one. Cybersecurity and AI don't go hand in hand. This definitely is a lot of work still to do. But like I said, put this by design. Just like we have the pharmaceutical products, just like we have a car, do this by design, and then things can be launched on the market. But not like it is right now. It's
Okay. Well, you give us some food for thought, where to begin to create an accountable world of AI. So, Mieke, I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights, and well, I'm certain we'll talk again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.